This is Richard Lockwood with Oregon Realty Company, broker licensed in the state of Oregon. And today we're going to talk about homeowner, homebuyer red flags. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the things that I've seen in my years as a short sale specialist from either home buyers or homeowners that led to being behind on your mortgage, being in a foreclosure situation, and whether or not we were able to sort the problem out with a short sale and avoid foreclosure, which usually we were. These are definitely things that kind of led to that situation, and I'm sure that, really anybody would rather not be in that situation to begin with. So positive correlation does not always mean cause and effect, but if you're aware of these things, maybe they can save somebody from a bad situation. So, disclaimer, I am not an attorney, I am not a tax accountant, this is not financial planning or tax advice or legal counsel in any way. I'm a real estate agent, and these are just things that I've experienced in my business as a real estate agent. So, as an informed consumer, you might want to be aware of them. So, let's see, one of the things, first off, beware of cash-out refis. Cash-out refinances can take a number of different forms. Either you might pay off your existing loan and get a new loan at a higher amount and use some of those additional funds to pay off personal debt like student loans, credit cards, maybe make upgrades on the house, etc. Some of those things can come back to haunt you, and you've weakened your position because now if housing falls a little bit, whereas before you would have had that equity as a cushion, now all of a sudden you're in the red on the house when maybe you wouldn't have been otherwise before. So bankers need to make quotas for new loans. So when you're in the bank, they'll see that you have good credit. They're gonna see that you are responsible, and they're gonna start offering you thousands of dollars in easy money in the form of refinancing. Also, be very careful of HELOCs, Home Equity Line of Credit. It's an acronym. And as a short sale realtor, I witnessed probably some of the greatest financial wreckage I've seen ever in the entire housing crisis. Hands down, the single worst thing I ever saw were home equity lines of credit. When home equity lines of credit, when HELOCs go right, they're a convenient way to, pay for things like maybe a new roof, stuff like that. But there's a lot of ways where very responsible homeowners, very responsible people can end up in debt to the tune of anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000, and that is also money that in the state of Oregon could come after you after a foreclosure. Oregon is usually a non-deficiency state. Again, talk to your attorney about your specific situation, but in general, Oregon is a non-deficiency state for first mortgages. If you're talking about cash-out refinances, though, you're getting into the deep water. And if you're talking about home equity lines, those are definitely something that the bank could come after you for after the foreclosure. So definitely something to be careful of. For some people, a cash-out refinance or HELOC provides a convenient money, and their income and other finances means that they can keep it under control, and it's just a convenient way. I know people that maybe don't even have a first mortgage at all. Their house is paid for in cash, and they just have a small home equity line, to get a new roof, cover a water heater, stuff like that. And because they don't have any other payments, their home equity line, a few $100 a month, it's pretty low cost living. So for some people it makes sense. Anyway, in other situations, I've seen the HELOCs cause just complete devastation to people's finances because the bank has a much greater ability to pursue borrowers for that debt should the worst happen, should you be faced with a job loss, medical bills that you can't pay, long-term financial hardship. These HELOCs can be devastating, or even if your work gives you a job transfer across the country, all of a sudden the house is upside down. You have this home equity line, and all of a sudden, you got to pay it. So, don't get me wrong, I settle all types of debts, and I have an extremely good track record dealing with home equity line of credits. They are a case-by-case basis. You're going to need to give us a call and talk to me about your exact circumstances, because in general, a home equity line is going to want a much higher percentage than a traditional, say, like second mortgage. If you got an 80-20, got a first mortgage and a second mortgage when you bought the house, under Fannie Mae guidelines, the second lien is going to settle for a max of $8,500. And these numbers are subject to change, but if you had a $50,000 second, they get $8,500. They'll sign off on it. Most of the major banks, that received federal bailout money, they have to agree to this kind of stuff. Home equity line of credit, stuff like that, are generally not included in that. So the bank, they have a lot more teeth, and they're a lot more stubborn about what they're going to be willing to settle for. So it's not amateur night. It's definitely not the time to have an agent that's maybe done a few short sales. I've helped hundreds of people. Give me a call, and we'll have to talk about your specific instances, and you may want to seek legal counsel. We can deal with it, but it's a mess, and if you can't avoid it by not getting a HELOC in the first place, just word to the wise. Anyway, let's see. Paying a mortgage payment with a credit card. This is something that a lot of homeowners that are, they're dealing with some tough times. Maybe they've faced a hardship at work, a reduction in hours, some other thing has led to, kind of a cash crunch with them. And the problem is that you're paying off a secured debt with a non-secured debt. A first mortgage is secured by the property, meaning that, and again, this is not legal advice, talk to your real estate attorney if you're unsure about any of this stuff, but in generally speaking, a first mortgage has the right to foreclose on the property if you don't make your payment. In the state of Oregon, that's usually the end of what they can do. So when you're dealing with a credit card, the credit card debt is not going to go away after the foreclosure. So you're trading a secured debt for an unsecured debt. So what can make matters even worse is if that credit card ends up maxed out and then that goes into default, a defaulted credit card to the tune of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 or more, that credit card company is going to seek a judgment against you. A judgment against you is going to attach to the title of your house. When you have a judgment on the title of your house, the house cannot be sold until that judgment is forcibly released. There's a few ways to release a judgment. One is to simply pay it off in cash, but chances are if you're in a short sale and you have a maxed out defaulted credit card and a judgment, you don't have $30,000 to remove it. The other way is through bankruptcy, or if for some reason we have enough tools in the toolbox to get that credit card company a sizable payment. Maybe you owe $30,000 and they would accept a one-time payment from you for $15,000 or something like that. Or maybe your house isn't all the way in the red. Maybe it's just a little bit in the red, and we can get them $10,000 or $20,000. Sometimes we can get that pried off. Or maybe if you go bankrupt, then that judgment is still most likely going to be attached to the house, but at least they can't come after you personally. And so we'll just have more options. But in any case, using that credit card to pay your mortgage for that extra 6 months or that extra year before you really realize how bad things got, can put you in a much worse situation. And that's the situation of having your home and then having a judgment attached to it. Now, the reason why a bank, your credit card company that is, would get a judgment is because, if you owed this much on your house, suppose you owed $200,000 on your house and your house was worth $300,000, credit card company attaches that judgment, you sell your house for $300,000, credit card company gets their $30,000, you get the rest, and everybody goes home. You run into problems though when your house is now worth $200,000, you owe $200,000, closing and escrow fees and stuff to sell your house would be $20,000, so you're in the red, and next thing you know, here's this judgment that's on top of that. Then you can really get into hot water. And $20,000 for a $200,000 sale, that's a bit high, but that's assuming there's other factors such as junior liens. Depends on when it is in the tax year, whether or not your taxes are prorated. So there's a lot of factors to consider in that. So don't quote me on that. Anyway, that's what that is. Let's see. Credit cards. So in short, on the credit cards, if you're in a financial hardship that is not simply a short-term thing, if you're in a long-term financial hardship, paying your mortgage with your credit card long-term is going to do you a lot more harm than good. And also, if you do end up getting foreclosed, if you do end up completing a short sale, if you have that maxed out and or defaulted credit card, it's going to make it a lot harder to get an apartment, get a rental house, something like that. If you strike early, if you know, hey, this isn't going away, this is going to be a hardship that's going to last quite a long time. If you have a credit card that, the balance is low on it, etc., and your credit is still, not great but okay, you're going to have a lot more options in terms of being able to use that to get an apartment, get a rental house, something like that. So, something else to consider. Let's see. Next red flag for home buying homeowners. Zero down home loans. Zero down home loans in a lot of ways are amazing. If you have, let's say, $10,000 or $20,000 saved up, and you're kind of just in between. You're looking at, FHA putting 3.5% down. The mortgage insurance is expensive, or if you did make a down payment, say 5% or 10% down for a conventional insured loan, then that would exhaust your $10,000 to $20,000 in cash reserves. Well, if you qualify for a zero down home loan, such as VA for veterans, members who've honorably served in the military, or it's a rural house and it qualifies for, say, USDA financing, and there's other state, local programs, etc., that your local realtor might be able to help you with, or a loan officer could help you with. Anyway, in those situations, if you have that savings that you would use for a down payment, it can put you in a really strong position. Because then you can use some of that money to pay closing costs, get a better deal. You can also have that money set aside for savings, because owning a home, you're going to have unexpected stuff come up. You're going to have expenses, you're going to have a lot of things, and having that added responsibility of a mortgage, it'd be really nice to have $10,000 or $20,000 just in the bank set aside for that rainy day, So that in that way, a zero down loan, paying that $20,000 down on the mortgage would save you a little bit, very small amount, compared to having that money in the bank to give your family that extra financial security. Anyway, so in that sense, zero down home loans are great. There's a way that they're really can be pretty nasty, and that is when I list a lot of properties, and I'll have all sorts of buyer's offers come across my desk, and at times I'll see zero down home buyers that are zero down, and they're also asking for money in closing costs, which isn't all bad, but it gets better. So they're asking for closing costs, and they're getting zero down. Then on top of that, if something like a simple repair comes out on an inspection and we're in escrow, everybody's agreed on the price, everybody's happy with the deal, and all of a sudden something like, an $800 or a $1,000 like water heater, something comes out like that, and the buyer is just panic stricken. And I've seen multiple situations in my career where a zero down buyer who is asking for closing costs and a simple repair, could have been a $500 repair, under $1,000, just really low dollar, simple repair that you should just be ready for when you're buying a house, or when you own a house, you should be ready for that. And this buyer just did not have the money, and they walked away from the deal. Now, some of those buyers, I later found out that they had canceled on our property and went down the block to write on another piece of real estate. And the one question I ask is, okay, so what would happen if that water heater on my listing, what happens if it went out a month after they bought the house instead of the month before they bought the house? That homeowner, that new homeowner, would be all of a sudden thrown into these dire straits. They're living check to check. They're trying to buy a house for over $200,000. That's a lot of responsibility, when you're just living check to check, and all of a sudden, one unexpected home repair puts you just in the red to the point where you can't proceed. So, that's the dark side of the zero down home loan, is all of a sudden they become attractive to people that, might want to wait a little bit before they buy a house. And that's unfortunate. So, anyway, so homeowners can often save hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars on their taxes. Again, talk to your tax professional. So, owning a home can save you a lot of money. Very often, today's low interest rates, you might be able to get a mortgage on a property for much cheaper in some cases than you could rent that property. And in those situations, buying a home can save you a lot of money. But with those savings, you should probably be saving some of that money aside, setting some of that money aside for those unexpected things. And it could even be not directly related to the house. I mean, if your car breaks down and all of a sudden you can't get to work and you're living check to check, then, here we are, and all of a sudden you're late on your mortgage. So just things to consider. And, with that being said, zero down home loans, all these things aren't necessarily evil in and of themselves, but these are just things that I've seen really take people unaware. Anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, if you need help with real estate in the Portland area, give us a call at 503-473-8001. Visit our website, exclusiveportlandrealestate.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us comments. Ask about other videos you'd like to see, questions about the process, anything like that. Just give us some feedback. Let us know what we can do. And thanks for watching.